All right, so today we're going to be upgrading these NKB heads from Skip White. We're going to go from their hydraulic roller package, which was about 120 pound on the seat and 340 or 350 open, to these Comp 917s, which will give us about 200 pound at 1.8 and about 600 pound at their open height, a little less at my open height because our cam doesn't lift that high. The problem with these is when they set them up for this smaller spring package, the spring seats they use are hard to match, and the retainers they use are matched to the springs. So when I go to these bigger springs on the outside, you know, you have to change your retainers and your spring seats. And these only will work on the NKB heads with the longer valves for the hydraulic roller. The ones they set up for the flat tappet use a shorter valve. Same thing, they use a decent seal package, they use decent hardware. These are new valve seals from TrickFlow, so we're gonna use those. And like I said, these are Comp 741-16 retainers, and these are 4759-16 spring seats. So they will match the 917-16 springs on here. And now what I'm changing them with, I'm getting rid of the Morel / Lunati lifters that I had a lot of problems with. These are Howard's solid lifters for a small block Ford. There's the part number on them, and they look like a pretty good piece. They're nice link bars. I checked them. It doesn't say the soak in oil. It feels like they're packed in grease pretty well. Now you can run these on a hydraulic roller cam, but what Cam Motion has advised me is they want the cold lash set at about 2 thousandths. So they said that will open up. He said technically you can run them till they touch, but he said leaving a little bit is, you know, good. And since they're the guys that ground the cam, I'm gonna listen to them. Now these, they say they're quality American made rollers. They're designed for moderate sportsman racing. They're not designed or recommended for street use, but I've seen a lot of guys use them. It says spring pressures are not to exceed 250 pounds closed and 700 pounds open, and they advise you not to go past 8,000. Since I'm on a stock block, there's zero chance of me going to 8,000 RPM. I got everything all cleaned up, ready to go. I've been waiting to put this thing back together for a while due to just a busy schedule, lack of time, lack of energy to get it done. I just haven't got there yet. So today, you know, things are calming down a little bit. So I'm gonna get them done. This is the valve spring compressor I use. I've had it a long time. It works great on these heavier springs. Same thing. Now, the other thing is you should be checking your assembled height. So I have this Comp Cam's height mic, and what it does is as you unscrew it, it has a reading on it. So it's a micrometer, so you can see exactly where you're at. So you want to check so you know that your installed height is what matches the spring pressure. And then that way, you know, they state, hey, coil bind happens here, you know you're away from it. You should check it once installed anyway, but you know, this is one of those things. Also with this, you're gonna need a longer set of push rods because these solid roller lifters are a little bit shorter. So I know from previous experience what size I need, but you should always check it. And the same thing, one other thing to check is when you're putting these in, you wanna make sure that the bar faces in, and you also want to make sure that you're not coming above or below the band, because if you come above or below the oiling band, then the lifters won't get proper oil, they won't work right, and you can have all kind of issues. So check all that stuff. You know, these look like we'll be right on the money. I have done this before. I have not used the Howard's lifters though. Usually I use Comp, but these look like they're well made. There's no clip to come out, there's no nothing like that, so we shouldn't have any issues. But we'll check all that. and I'm gonna get started putting these heads together, and I'll probably time lapse it so you guys can follow along. Also, we may go over cam degreeing a little bit because I think I want to retard the cam a little bit, but I haven't decided quite yet. I'll wait till I get the heads on and check that out. I did buy the gaskets just in case, but I'm kind of undecided. With the solid lifters, I have a little bit more RPM range available, and I kind of want to take advantage of it. All right, so you saw me install them. I always like to give them a tap with a soft-faced hammer just to make sure everything's seated and everything like that. So these springs are at a 1/800 installed height, so that should give me roughly 200 pounds on the seat. When you go from hydraulic rollers to solid rollers on the same cam motion is stated 20 to 40 more pounds of pressure is okay. So I stepped it up more than that. I don't want to have spring pressure problems. I'm going to add boost to this thing, and with boost, you want to add a little bit more spring pressure because the pressure of the boost coming in wants to help waft the valve off. So a little extra spring pressure won't hurt as long as you stay within these specs from your lifter company. So we shouldn't have any issues there. Like I said, definitely make sure you lube everything. And I have this nice Lucas high performance assembly lube. It's synthetic. It works great for what I do it for. So, just use it and you won't have any galling or sticking problems. All right, we got the heads assembled on the block. I like to use these ARP head studs. Nice little trick for you guys is if you look them up on Summit's website and you find the trick flow version, they're like 10-15 bucks cheaper to buy than the ARP version, but you can see they're just ARP bolts. So just a nice little trick. I also like these 1250 S3 gaskets. They're steel core, so they don't deform as much as the regular 1250 gaskets. And you can see when you line them up, they fit pretty good. Now the other thing is, I glue them down a little bit with like gasket cinch or plumber's PVC glue because then they can stay in place while you assemble it. I've heard of guys having a lot of problems with these slipping and they don't have the locating tabs like the other ones. So another good trick for you guys is, this is a Victor Jr. intake, but it's a Ford Motorsport Victor Jr. intake, and it's like $50 to $75 cheaper to buy a Ford Motorsport Victor Jr. intake than an Edelbrock Victor Jr. intake. I don't know why. I called Ford Motorsport and they literally said, yeah, it's a Victor Jr. intake. So, but other than that, we're gonna get together. I like to use stainless fasteners on the intake, but I also put a little bit of anti-seize on them so you can, they don't gull the threads. I got the intake, I got the lifters in, and I tried the push rods that were recommended to me, and they're about 1.25 inches too short, so I'll have to get different ones, which isn't the end of the world, but is another hang up. Same thing, I've never had any issues with these Scorpion rockers, so I'm going to continue using them, but I'm going to get back to it and get the rest of this assembled. All right, so I didn't time lapse the whole thing. I didn't even record the whole thing because there really isn't much to see of a guy putting an engine in. But I got it all buttoned up. I lashed the valves. Since it is a solid roller lifter on a hydraulic cam, Cam Motion would recommend you set them, 2 to 4 thousandths cold and they'll open right up warm. I haven't rechecked them warm, but I will. Dropped it all back in, started it up. Great oil pressure, sounds amazing. I don't have any noises, no ticks, no nothing. Just thank God, no more lifter noise. It just sounds the way it should sound. You get in there, you hit the key, it sounds like it should sound. A little bit of mechanical noise from the lifters, but nothing major. So you can just hit the key, start it right up. And it's got that nice high compression lope that we all love. So hopefully get it back out on the road and see what she can do again at the track. I'd love to get it back through this year, but that's not going to happen since we are in northern Pennsylvania. Everything closes down real early, so it won't happen this year, but it'll give me a little bit more time in the winter to tinker around with it and get everything set up and ready to go again.